And welcome to the Barry Foster Show on YouTube, originating from the beautiful Ridge Floor Studios in the city of Charm, downtown Avon Park. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions for the program, just drop us a line, thebarryfostershow@gmail.com, or put them in the comments below. That'll help us a lot. Check out this YouTube page at The Barry Foster Show every weekday. We're going to have new programming up on a regular basis, and please subscribe. It doesn't cost a dime. Just hit that subscribe button and the like button, and make sure you make some comments. It'll tell YouTube you're listening to us, and we're listening back to you. And like and join our pages at The Barry Foster Show, The Barry Foster Show group on Facebook and Instagram. That also would be very helpful. John Larsen in the studios.
Good morning.
Good morning. And I'd like to take a moment to thank all the people who listen to the program, who put comments up. We've come a long way since April. We're getting new subscribers almost every day, and you're just talking to somebody who listens all the time too.
Listens all the time, and has a couple friends that listen also.
That's very nice.
And they're not in this locale. So I mean that, the word is spreading and whatnot. But as a lot of things go, it takes some time. Mm-hmm. You just can't create this thing, and it doesn't mushroom much overnight. Okay, so it takes time to build an audience, but I think it's coming. I think it's spreading. And the other thing, when the snowbirds return, which will be happening any time now, over the next 2 or 3 months, they'll all come back, which in our locale, I think is around 40 or 50% of the population.
A lot of folks come back.
A lot of that live around me. I'd say easily half, if not more than half, of those folks are gone in the summer. And so my next door neighbors from Illinois, they're gone. So, I mean, that happens, and we're going to gain quite a bit, I think, of new listeners as the snowbirds return and get the word.
The thing is the not so very long ago, John and I did a live version of the program at the Tea Party. Mm-hmm. And I've got it set up now with microphones and amplifiers, and I had so much fun. I think I want to do that again. Mm-hmm. And if, maybe we'll... How many dozen donuts do we have to take to Tanglewood if we want to do it live? 5 dozen?
A lot of dozens.
A lot of donuts.
It's better to do it in the non-snowbird season because it's a little bit less, okay? But, yeah, quite a few. And, that happens at a lot of these major 55 and older communities. Mm-hmm. They, a lot of them do that very thing because they want to hear who's out there, like we do. Who's out there, what do they do, and what can we learn if we listen to this person? For instance, week after the last Tuesday of this month, like 30th or whatever it is, we have the late Barbara Snap from...
Oh, this will be at the Tea Party.
Tea Party, yes, sir. Coming to speak about her business here, right down on 27, the, what do they call it?
Food for thought.
Food for thought, yeah. All natural, organic type food and supplements and so on that you can get at her organization. So there's opportunities to learn about what is in your area that you may not be familiar with. And so that's between what you do here and what we do there, we're trying to spread the word.
The Islands Tea Party, by the way, meets Tuesday evenings, most Tuesday evenings.
Not this evening.
Not on Labor Day, the day after Labor Day. We get a 4-day weekend.
Right.
But most weekends at the Vietnam Veterans Hall, 33565 Grand Prix Drive, right behind the Sebring Walmart. Doors open at 5, meeting starts at 6 if you want to come, and there's always something interesting going on.
You see, this weekend we did get booked C.S. Bennett in December,
yes.
And he's got some new books, but he's also being looked at for 1 or 2 of his books being turned into a movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes, and I sent you that.
Yes.
Yes, and what that heads up on where he's at in that whole process. So
are they looking for stars?
Well, it could be, but he is a prolific. This is like books number 26, 27, 28.
Oh,
my gosh. I don't know how he can sit there and crank them out. And it's not just one subject matter either.
He writes romance novels.
Military, romance novels, history
Political novels?
Political, absolutely. So, yes, it's interesting. But he is such a fine fellow. And I saw that he's also speaking tonight or Thursday at the Winter Haven 912 group.
Oh, yeah, that'll be Thursday.
And so we got him coming in on, and it was ironic. I said to him, do you know that you were our first speaker this year, January 2nd? I said, now you're going to be December 2nd. I said, isn't that ironic? Okay.
Yeah, bookends,
yes, that's
so to
right.
Speak.
But he's such a nice person.
He is.
Absolutely genuine nice person.
You might look up, there's one that they refuse to carry that you may want to see. It's called Truth versus the Democrat Party. okay? And it's a great book, but they won't list it, so you have to go looking for it. If the there's no period. It's just CS, no period, CS, capital CS, Bennett, Bennett. But I want to get back to this because I want people to know that we could be available if you wanted to book us in as entertainment for your club, group, or organization and have us do one of our programs live in front of you. We can arrange that.
That's
okay?
Right. That's right.
John and I can arrange that, and you can be, and then we will post it up here on the web.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, I think there's a lot of opportunity, and you can also see, and I watch, as I've said many times on this program, I watch a lot of podcasts because I like to see what other people are talking about, and I like to see how much. Yes, have they been around a lot longer? Absolutely. Have they built a much bigger audience? Absolutely. But it took them time also.
Yes.
And even though they may have thousands of listeners or viewers, they still say, please sign up for my podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because you always want to grow bigger. I mean, it's like nobody's doing what they're doing to get smaller. You're doing what you're doing to get bigger.
Well, Sandra
and gain a bigger audience.
Sandra and I are, there are a couple of, there's a couple of methodologies you use for advertising. And we have not done any, we've had some paid guests on. We haven't done any advertising yet, but there's a new, we had a couple of people who've expressed interest. One is, they're both here in Highlands County. One's Danny Yarborough and Yarborough Tires. One is Kelly Griffin over at Griffin's Carpet Mart Patio and Decorating Shop, who were longtime radio sponsors with us and said they want to sponsor. And I said to Sandra, well, what do I charge? I mean, I'm a really good talk show host. I do a great job with that, and we have a great program here. I have now become somewhat of an engineer. I've learned how to put all the podcast equipment together.
There you go.
And on Friday, you'll get a chance to hear the first time I ever used what they call the Mix Minus, my phone interview with Wes Pyburn on the upcoming NASGRAS lawnmower racing season. And I'm sorry I butchered the name so much in the broadcast, but it's the North American Society of Grass Racers and Sod Slingers, something that I should know by heart, but I just butchered it. At any rate, so we've had a chance. And now I'm going to learn how to be a sales manager.
There you go.
And I've had my forays into sales have not been the best parts of my life, but I'm going to learn to do it now, and my wife is going to help me. But if you want to advertise, we'll take the money, and we'll get you out there. And more people are listening all the time. At this taping, we're working towards 1,000 subscribers. Okay, we're working that way, which is small potatoes in the podcast industry. But still, we have thousands of people who listen to the broadcast who are not subscribing. And please, if you can subscribe, please do subscribe.
Just hit that button.
Hit that button. So
do.
John and I will do it live, and there's some advertising time coming. And I want to get back to this because we talked a little bit about this yesterday, about the trade schools and some of the things that they were doing. And I've reached out to South Florida State College because the last number that I have is that they have taken 2,500 truckers off the road.
More than that, way more than that.
How's that?
Way more.
You have a number of that? A new number?
I saw close to 100,000.
Wow.
Okay, and of course it's not happening in California because they refuse to participate in that program. They don't care how many illegal drivers they have on the road. All right. The same thing with Illinois and I'm assuming New York. Those big three radical states run by governors that are off the chart crazy, if you will. But I mean, they're not participating. But Florida is now, if you go by their weigh stations, all right, they are checking just about every driver that comes through the weigh station to verify that they can speak and read English. And if they can't, you're out of the cab, your truck is sidelined, they have to get another driver there. But what this has done is absolutely, the thing I heard it this morning, and it's sad, but it's also true. The driver and his brother that were in that cab that turned around in 95, the three people that killed were immigrants from Nicaragua, I believe. All three of them, yes. Now, whether they were illegal or not, but the story was that all five of the people that were involved in that accident were immigrants that came from outside the United States. Not one was an American citizen at this point. So it's
So
kind
he
of...
killed 3 illegal aliens.
Well, if they were totally illegal or they were here under maybe a green card situation, but they were immigrants, all right? None of them were citizens of the United States, what I heard this morning.
Well, I've reached out to Joe Burke, who's the coordinator for Truck Driving Academy at South Florida State College, because I got a call from a friend of mine who said, Barry, do you know, do people have to be fluent in English to go to South Florida State College and get a CDL? And I said, I don't know, but I know who to call. So I called over there and talked to Mr. Burke, and he assured me, absolutely, you must be fluent in English and reading and speaking to get a CDL. And so I was very happy about that. And I said, look, with all the people that are pulling off the roads and the work that you're doing, and I see they have a big semi-tractor trailer rig. And, it's kind of funny because on the back of the trailer it says student driver, But they're taking the kids around and on the regular roads and the back roads, teaching them, well, not only kids, but adults.
Sure.
And the last I heard, Walmart was paying north of $100,000.
Yes, they were.
To become a truck driver for them.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine it might even be more than that now.
I would suspect. Yep.
So I wanted to have him on to talk about their program because I think it's very important because we are really, and we've talked about this for years now, we are really lacking. We don't need an art history major, but we do need plumbers and electricians and carpenters.
We need all the tradespeople. We really need all the tradespeople. And I think with what Trump has done, number one, like I said, he's got this gal whose position is to go out and talk to all the states, find out what they need to support the trade businesses. And she said not only just the trades, but firemen, policemen, people that states are in dire need of and can't find, and can't get people to apply for the jobs. So they're reaching out to all of these organizations, all the states, and all of these distant disciplines that you've got in the area and try to get those folks on board. So I think that's coming. I think if things move along the way they look like they are, then you're going to see a massive increase in labor and jobs available. And if let's say they move out, the final number, let's pick a number, let's say, because some of these people they take off the roads may now say, okay, I've got to become fluent in English and reading, writing, and then I'm going to reapply for a truck driving job when I've got those skills and whatnot. But if they lose, let's say, 50,000 truck drivers, nothing moves in this country unless a truck driver's behind the wheel.
That's right.
So that's 50,000 jobs that are going to become available if that trucking company wants to stay in business. Some of them may be small, 2-3 rigs. Some may be big, thousands of rigs, and so on. But every one of them at this point needs a driver. So it'll be interesting to see when all the dust settles on this whole thing and this disaster that, what have we got and where are we at now? How much of a market? The other thing that's happening, I listened to it this morning, they're saying that the pricing on houses is going to start coming down because 1.2, 1.3 million people, illegals in this country, have left either voluntarily or transported out of the country. They were all living somewhere, whether it was an apartment or a house that they managed to buy or whatever. Those properties, the less people you have trying to acquire something, the lower the price becomes.
Yes.
If you've got 100 people wanting to buy the same thing, guess what? That price goes up until the first person wins. But if they disappear, those 100 people disappear, guess what? Now the price comes down because they have to go out and attract buyers.
Yes, and as they get people off Social Security, there's going to be more money for the people on Social Security.
Absolutely. And also, even Medicare. You see so many stories. You could sit and watch every day the stories that are on places like Facebook, if you will, that are moaning and groaning about the fact they've lost their Section 8 housing, they're going to lose a bulk of their food stamps, SNAP program, or they're going to lose other benefits. Yes, you're right. Those programs should become more solvent as the illegal people that are using them disappear.
Right.
And so on. And what those people are doing or occupying or whatever is also. Now, the other part that I want to see happen, and I know they talked about it, but I don't think it's happened yet, that remittance that all of these illegals are sending back to their home country, they're going to attach some kind of a tax or something on that money.
I hope so. That has been an ongoing foreign aid program for years, And for more than 20 years, I think, back when I was talking about the VDare.com, that's Virginia, VDare.com, they were talking about all this stuff. And right here in Sebring, there's a place that has a big flashing light. Here's where you send your money back to your home country. Mm-hmm. And we've seen they put 20 or 30 people in a house designed for 5, and they live there on subsistence living, just the moon pies and RC Cola, and they go out and work and send all their money back home. Mm-hmm. And we need to keep that money here in the United States.
Well, I think the last I heard, just Mexico alone, it's like the second or third largest income factor in the country of Mexico is the remittance that people send back. I think it's in the $60 billion range a year.
There's a great film called Undocumented, mm-hmm. and both myself and my dear friend Tom Macklin, back when he was the mayor of Avon Park, we were in that movie, and they came into the radio studios where we do, and they taped, they did video of us, and they showed one woman who called up and spoke in Spanish. She was very fluent in Spanish, and she was asking for help, and they gave her all kinds of help. Now, this is back in the 1990s, okay? All kinds of stuff. All kinds of help did she. So then she turned around, waited for a little while, and this is before caller ID, apparently, and she called back and spoke in English. And they weren't telling her anything. They were, well, ma'am, there's nothing we can do for you. And she ran them along for a while and finally said, wait. I just called and was speaking to you in Spanish, and you told me all about all of this other stuff. Now you're telling me it's not available? And it got real quiet. They were caught. Mm-hmm. So, yes, this has been going on for a long time. I think that, and we talked about this yesterday, about how the Cracker Barrel was the straw that broke the camel's back on getting rid of Americana and American history. I think for years there are people who hate this country and have been trying to destroy this country, and if they can use our own government to do that, they'll do it. And giving these kinds of benefits to people who don't deserve it, they're down there at the low level. They can do that. Whatever they write, they can make that happen. Mm-hmm. And so now it's time for us to begin to undo, because some of this damage, it'll be decades, it'll be generations before we undo it. What the administration headed by Joe Biden did in terms of letting people across the border, giving them all kinds of benefits, giving them Social Security numbers, that hurt the United States tremendously. Can we ever recoup that? Probably not. And the question that we all have is, well, we had the whistleblower you mentioned yesterday had come forward and said she was running the auto pen, but who was telling her? Who was sending this stuff to her? That's what we got to find out.
Well, and it's obvious that there is so much corruption in the federal government, and it's been in existence for a long time. Yes, a lot of it got exasperated under Joe Biden and under Obama, but it started decades ago, many decades ago, the corruption, and it's gotten so worse. When you listen to some of the stories that are still coming out about what Doge found, it is just absolutely amazing. And the judges, it is so frustrating, and I can't imagine how frustrating it is for the administration, but so many of these activist judges are now, they stopped Alcatraz, okay, stopped that in its tracks, all right? They've stopped all kinds of programs that the president wanted to install this morning. Now they are saying that he cannot incorporate tariffs.
Yes, I saw that.
Can't incorporate tariffs.
And I thought that low-level judges could not do this. Now this is an appellate court that upheld this. It's going to end up in the Supreme Court, but in the interim, they're going to put a hold on the tariffs, which really have been bringing in all kinds of money to the United States.
Yes, and this is so frustrating because they brought in all these millions and millions of illegals, and there wasn't, from my recollection, not one judge stepped in to stop what they were doing. Not one. Now, that may have been the fault of the Republicans because they didn't take it to court. They didn't file charges like the Democrats do, and so on. So if they don't learn from this whole lawfare situation, they never will.
It's going to take real activist legislators, and we have the midterms coming up, and we were talking a little bit about this before we went on the air. But this redistricting, I have a story from Florida's Voice that says that Florida could play a decisive role in this next round of redistricting, potentially even tilting the 2026 midterm elections toward the Republicans. This is by a New York Times analysis. The report projected that if Florida redraws its congressional maps, Democrats would need to win the national House vote by at least 2.3 percentage points to hold control, and by 3.4 points if Florida acts alongside Ohio, Missouri, and Indiana. So what was started by Texas, and Texas seems to be well underway, and now California and Illinois are trying to gerrymander their states.
Yes.
This is a war between the states without any actual bullets being fired.
You know, and the thing that's amazing, as I said before, I lived in Massachusetts for 17 years, and there is no district in the state of Massachusetts that's Republican, not one. Mm-hmm. They've gerrymandered the Republicans totally out of, but in the election in 24, Trump got 37% of the vote, all right, and yet there's no Republican districts in there. So this is why, this proves to you that these gerrymandered states are as crooked as a snake.
Well, yeah, what it's going to take is for the Republicans to do
Yes.
what the Democrats
Yes.
have done,
Yes.
which is if I was in Massachusetts, I would have to run with a D after my name and run as a D, and then when I got in there, start doing R kind of things, okay? And that's what it's going to take. And in California, in Illinois, it's what's going to take is, but they have a machine. You have a machine that's hard to beat.
Yes.
Okay, but nothing is undefeatable.
No, and when you take a look at it, what states are in the worst condition? Their economies, their debt is off the chart, unbelievable. Because, for instance, in Minnesota, when Tim Walz took office as the governor, they had a plus in their state budget. They're now billions of dollars in debt because of the crazy things he did to that state of Minnesota. And you go across the country, California, Illinois, all right, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Massachusetts, they're all in terrible shape, New York, because they have crime off the chart because of no criminal penalties are in charge because they've got these rogue DLJs, if you will, in their state that do not file charges. So it's interesting. I saw also in D.C., they've arrested something like 1,300 people in 2 weeks that they've been there.
Really?
And they've got 2 more weeks to go. And then if he still wants to stay there, they have to get Congress to agree to keep them there. But he's going to, and they said that he's making a major announcement either today or tomorrow. And the conjecture is that it's going to be, that he is definitely going to go into Illinois.
Yeah, I don't know about, I agree with Trump on a lot of things. I don't know, I agree with him on that. That is going to take the people of Illinois to do something. Now, I'll never forget, I saw this interview with this woman in Baltimore when the riots were there. And they had defunded the police department. And the police had refused to go into some sectors because it was just too dangerous for them to actually go in there. And this woman told the reporter, it was better when the gangs were in charge. And that in her neighborhood, the police were not in charge. The gangs were in charge. Now, you may find this hard to believe, but I heard a story from a guy who was there and apparently knew the principals. And this happened up in the Northeast. It happened up in New England, and there was this guy who was a golf pro, and his house got burgled, and they took a bunch of his stuff, and so he was out there and he was doing his golf pro teaching, and apparently one of the guys he was teaching was a higher up, if not the leader, of the local organized crime family. And the guy says to him, I'll make up a name, Bill, Bill, what's wrong? He says, man, he says, I'm not with it. He says, my house got robbed. He goes, what? He says, yeah, my house got robbed. Somebody broke in and took all this stuff. He says, 2 days later, there's a knock on the door. And he opens up. And there's this guy and there's all his stuff. And he says, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. He says, here's all your stuff. Here's my name and my number. If there's anything that's missing, I will buy a new whatever it is. But this is all the stuff I took. He says, I really apologize. I'm so sorry. And as the story went, this guy was a freelancer. He didn't have permission to rob houses, okay? The gang had not given him and especially not the golf pros. So the guy said, pretty much, either you give this stuff back or you wish you had. So he came back. So the gangs are very organized. So could the gangs run a neighborhood and make sure that things ran on a pretty even keel? I think pretty much, yeah.
They could, but they're also part of the problem. If they're crooks and criminals, they're part of the problem. It's going to be very interesting. I'm hoping, and I think I got a little inkling into this yesterday with a story that I heard, that what he wants to do initially, and I agree with you on this, Pat, initially just put ICE and the police organizations, FBI, put them into Chicago, right? If you're going to put the National Guard there, surround federal buildings to protect the building and the people coming and going out of that building, but not roaming the streets with the ICE and FBI people.
Well, they've been standing on street corners, I guess.
Yes, but, put them, even Pritzker said that a little bit in a clip I heard this morning. Okay, Pritzker said, we understand that the federal government is in charge of immigration, and we're not going to interfere with that problem, all right?
Oh, really?
We're not going to interfere with it. But he said, I do not want the National Guard all over the whole community of Chicago.
Well, you're going to make us look bad. I mean, you bring in the National Guard, and I understood that there's like 2,000 troops that are poised to go in. And I don't know who was going to send them in, whether it was Donald Trump or Pritzker. I don't know. But if you go in and clean up the crime, you're going to make us look bad.
Well, same thing in D.C. Muriel Bowser came around after 2 weeks and said, I really appreciate the help, and it's obvious that I'm paraphrasing her words, you got boots on the ground, and the impact they've had on crime is really appreciated. So she changed her tune from day one to 2 weeks later.
Well, somebody that she knows, okay, or some people that she knows say, look, we like this better, okay? We don't like Trump. Well, they're all riddled with TDS, okay?
Yeah.
They hate Trump, but they like what happened.
Yep.
So, if they go back in, but I think it was emblematic when they talked to the police chief, and they said something about the chain of command. He goes, "What's that?"
Oh, she
Didn't know what the chain of command was.
No.
And I went, whoa! I was in Boy Scouts. I know what the chain of command is. Okay, I'm not a police officer, nor do I pretend to be, but I know what the chain of command is. When you have people who one would think perhaps might have been hired because of what they looked like rather than what they knew, then you run into those kinds of problems. There was a time when the Sebring City Council was all women, and that was fine. They got the job done. I didn't care. They're all, it was a community redevelopment agency. It was all women, and that was fine. Nobody cared. I don't care your race, creed, color, national origin. I want to know, can you do the job?
Amen.
And that's why getting rid of these DEI hires is so important, because you want the most qualified person for the job. The rest of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are.
Well, you can see, again, I go back to what I said yesterday, and that was a lot of the little people that are committing little things, minor crime, offenses, whatever, or they are now being purged, 1, 2 at a time. They're going into these organizations. Somebody does something crazy because we're a DEI plant. They're out. They're firing people that are involved in that or were part of it under the Biden administration.
The gal they just got rid of in the Federal Reserve.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Yes.
And, of course, she's fighting it. But here's the issue. This is another story I heard. It's going to be amazing because she filed suit against Donald Trump. So now, not only is she going to try and be defended on getting fired, she now is going to have to respond to her charges, which means they're going to put her on the stand and grill her about what you did with your mortgages and all of that, because she opened this up. So it's going to come to a head, but it's going to be interesting. And I agree with Trump. How can you have somebody involved in the Fed, and she's been there for she's got a 14-year term. That's how long they're in, 14 years. She's been there for, 5 or 6 years, because I think she was put in initially by Joe Biden early on in his administration, and so on. So they're going to go in there, and when they question her now, she's got 2 or 3 properties where she claimed each one of them, I think, in a different situation as her primary residence. You cannot have that. You can only have one primary residence. Yes. All right, just like Tricia James up in New York State, same thing. You cannot have only one place, because they're doing this to get a cheaper rate. Now, if anybody that's involved in the Fed is involved in setting monetary policy for people buying homes, mortgage rates. And here's a woman who tried to cheat the system by going around it by having 2 or 3 places as designated as her primary residence.
Yeah, I'm hearing that the president may declare a housing emergency in response to this, what they call the affordability crisis.
Yes.
That they are going to unveil a series of new measures aimed at alleviating the financial burdens faced by many potential homeowners and renters. So, again, Donald Trump is looking at solving the problem by getting rid of regulations, getting rid of things that cost people more money.
And not only that, you've got to get the price down. When I look, I was in a community this past weekend where the homes, if you look at the housing that is for sale, it's ranging from the low 400s to the high 500s.
Wow.
Okay. How many people, and if you're looking at 20% down on a property like that, you've got to have $50,000, $60,000 down, and your mortgage rate is still going to be close to $2,000 or $3,000 a month. How many young families in their 20s or 30s can afford that? Very, very few. So you've got to get, and I looked at it, I bought my first house for $29,000. All
wow.
Right, that was my first house.
But then again, you were getting, what, $5 an hour?
Well, I don't know if I was making $5. I started in the factory at $3.50.
Yeah,
okay?
there you go. Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I managed to. When we got overtime, we had a credit union, so I put all the overtime money in the credit union. Well, after about 6 or 8 years, I had enough for a down payment, but the house was $29,000. Okay, and its house is still there today, and it's still being lived in. Yeah, so
when I bought my first house, okay, it was a little bit more than that. It was about $40,000 for my first house. And I borrowed, I had a $5,000 down payment that I borrowed from my mother, okay? And she loaned me, and she gave me a little payment book and everything. It was very cute.
Yeah.
I got it at no interest. I got it at 0 interest rate, okay?
Yep.
But I paid it back. I paid it back. And there were times when I was working 4 jobs, okay?
Yep.
I didn't have a lot of time to spend with my family, and my then wife was also working, and we paid her back, and then by the time we got ready to pay the house off, we were paying like $400 or $500 a month. Okay, now it didn't hold a candle to my former editor at the newspaper, who bought her house long before I bought mine. She was paying $212 a month for her house payment. Okay, and back then, the house, to rent a house, was $700 or $800 a month anyway. It's a lot more than that. It's not around $1,200 now.
Yep.
But we ended up having a much better deal because we were buying our house. And there's some places like these little towns where you can buy houses like that aren't that expensive, but renting them is off the charts. And we know the big companies now are buying the new houses and renting them out so that you get used to not having your own personal property.
Well, like you, I can remember the first mortgage I had on that house, $29,000. I borrowed money from the Marquette Credit Union in Erie. I'll never forget that. And my house payment was like $202 a month.
Wow.
And I sweated that. I sweated like bullets.
Oh, yeah.
Am I going to have $200 every month? We did. Okay, we did.
Nowadays, you wouldn't. People wouldn't think about that nowadays. But the thing is that you can look to the turn of the decade when Bernie Sanders' $15 an hour went into effect. And nobody questions him about this anymore. He's dropped out of sight, okay? But the $15, that was supposed to solve all the problems.
Amen.
Right? And we warned him. We said, all that's going to do is cause massive inflation, which it did. And so people go, well, that tariffs, they're being paid by the consumers. That's right. But it brings those products in line with a $15 an hour minimum wage that you're paying all kinds of low-grade people to do mundane work, and many more than the $15 an hour to run a forklift in a warehouse, okay? To be somebody who was a quality control person along the conveyor belt, to somebody who's assembling small parts for $15 an hour, when they were making $6 or $7 an hour, you weren't paying that much. But that is. And you have to take these leftists, when they talk about this, the thing about the tariffs, you have to tell them, say, look, that brings us up even with your Bernie Sanders $15 an hour, okay? Look at what they did. And they get real quiet because they know that that's the truth.
And since then, no, California's gone to $20 an hour. So their fast food workers are $20 an hour, but then take a look at how many they lost, I think, 80,000 jobs.
Yes.
In California when they did that, because fast food restaurants either went out of business, or had to raise their prices, or in some cases, if they could, automated as much as they could, eliminated jobs.
They had that machine that made hamburgers.
This is going to be the thing that's going to happen going forward, and especially with the advent of AI, which just eliminates the possibility of the need for a lot of manual labor and so on. So the automation factor is going to go up, and the manual labor folks are going to go out, and it's only because they push the button too far. Because you get to a point price-wise, in any business, your labor is your most expensive product.
Right.
Okay, by far, because all the benefits, not just the wage, $15 an hour. No, what benefits are you paying? Do you have paid vacation? Do you have medical coverage? Do you have all these other things that are part of it? And so on. So I think these people learned a hard lesson. They pushed it, oh yeah, we want 20, we want 15, we want 20. They got it. They also may have lost their job.
And we saw this under the Obama administration, where many restaurants got rid of their full-time workers and made everybody part-time workers because they didn't get the benefits. They didn't get the medical coverage. They didn't get the insurance. They didn't get all the kinds of things that full-time employees got.
Right. And those jobs, let's face it, when the McDonald's started and the rest of them started, they were never depicted as a full-time job. You know, you can raise a family of 2 or 3 on this job. No, you can't. No, you can't. That was a job for kids in high school that wanted to earn some money for maybe the summer months, work for 6 months, get, $5 an hour, $6 an hour, whatever it was, okay, and maybe a free burger meal every day, and that's what they got. But, that didn't satisfy people, but then they thought, okay, I'll make a career out of this, but I have to have $20 an hour. In the process, I lost my job.
Or senior citizens who are trying to augment their Social Security.
Amen. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So it was a fallacy pushed by somebody, by Bernie Sanders, who, by the way, is a multi-millionaire with 3 or 4 houses.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? And you want to talk about somebody, yeah, you go ahead. I'm going to push all that for you. Oh, you're going to be losing your job, but don't worry. I've got my fat cat stuff over here.
I wonder if he speaks English.
He was about ready to come through the building.
It's nice to have Main Street right outside the door.
Yes, it is.
There's one thing, and we're going to talk about this next time we're on, because we're going to have a quick turnaround time this week. But one thing I want to talk about, and I heard Dinesh D'Souza talking about this, and it's something that we really need to let people understand and know, that they have tried to make 2 forms of government, right-wing forms of government, which are really left-wing forms of government. One is, they call you a Nazi, and they try to make you, because you're very conservative, they try to make you a Nazi. No, the Nazi is the National Socialist Party, okay? That's in German, that's the Nazi, is the National Socialist Party, because all of the things that Hitler did were socialist programs. The other one is fascism. They try to say that, well, Trump is a fascist. And even though they say it, it's not true, because fascism is where the government doesn't own the businesses, but they control the businesses through regulations and taxes. So they control what businesses can do by government regulations, which is another leftist type of government.
Mm-hmm.
It's another type of socialism, okay, where the government runs everything, not directly. You may own the John Larsen Widget Corporation, but by law, you can only make so many widgets a year, and you can't charge any more than this, and you can't charge any less than that. And your business is effectively run by the government, even though it's privately owned. And we're going to talk about that next time, because that's something.
And there's got to be we have to have some discussion, too, about the big powwow that's taking place right now in China. You got India, you got Russia, and there's like 20-some countries have come together to pat each other in the back and say what a good boy we are. So they're going to be getting together. And from what the story indicated today, that the bulk of this, with India being there, is not so much they can see that they cannot control the world's economy yet, but what they're trying to do is downplay the impact of what Donald Trump is doing with the tariffs.
Yeah, because Donald Trump is changing the world stage.
Yes.
And they are working very hard to make judges stop that.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that next time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And this has been the latest edition of the Barry Foster Show, recorded here at the Ridge Floor Studios in the City of Charm, beautiful downtown Avon Park. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, just put them on the comments below. I'd really appreciate it very much. We try to have something new each and every weekday, so check out the YouTube page right here. Share it with your friends. Let them know, especially in the great industrialized North. And please subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost a dime. Okay? You subscribe absolutely free. And join the Barry Foster Show Facebook page, the Barry Foster Show group Facebook page, and Instagram as well. As we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, John Larsen and Barry Foster, and we'll see you next time.